Hello and welcome once again to our virtual meeting. Today we're going over exponents. And so as always, I encourage you to pause the video at any point to either copy the notes or to rewind if you've missed anything. Now, exponents are quite simple, and yet they're also very easy to mess up. Very simple, and because they're very simple, they're very easy to mess up. But when talking about exponents, ladies and gentlemen, what we must remember is that exponent simply means repeated multiplication. It's essentially, an exponent will tell us how many times a number is going to be repeated times itself. For example, looking at this table, beginning with 3 raised to the 4th power. Notice this small 4 up here. Now that does not represent a number 4 like what you and I might think about, but actually it is telling us how many of the larger number there are being multiplied times itself, that many times. So for example, 3 raised to the 4th power simply means 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. That is 3 multiplied times itself 4 times. Notice how there is no 4 here. All right. So this is the exponential way of really writing 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which if we evaluate, that means if we work this out, 3 times 3 is 9, 9 times 3 is 27, 27 times 3 is 81. Or you can also do 3 times 3 is 9, and 3 times 3 is also 9, and 9 times 9 will give you 81. And that is essentially it. Again, the exponent simply tells us how many times we are repeating the number that it's above and multiplying it that many times. In other words, this is telling me that there are 4 3s being multiplied together. Now, 3 raised to the 3rd power would be the same thing, but now only 3 times. That means that there's 3 3s being multiplied together. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. Now, ladies and gentlemen, going back to that top one, 3 to the 4th power, this is not the same thing as 3 times 4. Again, there is no 4 here. Okay, I am not multiplying these two together. No, again, this is just telling me that there are 4 3s being multiplied together. All right, 3 to the 3rd power, there are 3 3s being multiplied together. 3 to the 2nd power would be 2 3s being multiplied together. And 3 to the 1st power, there's just 1 3. Again, that does not mean 3 times 1. I know that 3 times 1 is 3, but that is not the same thing. This just means that there's 1 3 here, and 3 is just equal to 3. It is always multiplication when we're dealing with exponents. Now, the oddest or weirdest one of all these would be 3 raised to the power of 0. 3 raised to the power of 0, which 3 raised to the power of 0. It's a little counterintuitive, but this actually is just 1. Anything, ladies and gentlemen, raised to the power of 0, whether it be 5 to the power of 0, or 3.7 to the power of 0, or 1 billion to the power of 0. Ladies and gentlemen, anything to the power of 0 will always equal 1. And I don't really want to show you the why. You'll learn that later, but really just understand that this, again, this is not a 0. That is just telling me how many times you see the number. And in this case, you don't see it at all. And so that is going to be a 1. Now, going back over here, ladies and gentlemen, this, any number raised to a power, that is actually known as exponential form. And that makes perfect sense because there's an exponent. So when you have a number with an exponent, you call that as exponential form. Now, when you actually write it out, like for example, 3 to the 4th power, that is exponential form. But when you write it out 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, that is known as expanded form. Expanded form. And so you're going to see that in the assignment, or you might see it in the question. Write this in exponential form or write this in expanded form. So that is useful. A few more terms, of course, the number on top is called the exponent, also known as the power. And in algebra, you might also call it the degree that something is raised to. But in our class, we're going to call this the exponent or the power. And the larger number, the regular size number actually, is just known as the base, which makes sense because it's small, because it's bigger and it's on the bottom, so it's the base. And that's pretty much it as far as exponents. If I go to the assignment, which we find on OneNote. Oh, one more thing, actually. We do have a couple of special cases. And that is, and you will see these a lot, not just in math, but also in science. The first being that anything raised to the power of 2, ladies and gentlemen, is said to be squared. And we will cover the why later when we go into geometry. But for now, just know that anytime you have something raised to the second power, instead of saying 5 to the second power or 5 to the power of 2, I can say 5 squared. Like 11 raised to the second power would be 11 squared. Or if they said, what is 4 squared? Then that's just 4 to the second power. In the same way, anything raised to the power of 3 is known as cubed. So 5 to the power of 3 is 5 cubed. That's just another way of saying to the power of 3. 10 to the third power would be 10 cubed. You'll see me use that a lot in class. And again, when we get to geometry, you'll see why we say 5 squared or 5 cubed or 7 squared or whatever. Ladies and gentlemen, looking at the actual assignment, going to OneNote, you will find that it's actually quite simple today. It is actually quite simple today. In fact, if we do a few of these together, second 9 weeks work, scroll down to 2-2 exponents and beginning with number 1 here. Notice that it's saying we need to write each as in expanded form and then evaluate it. Evaluate just means work it out. And so the first thing I'm going to do is write it in expanded form. So 3 to the 4th power is 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. And when I work it out, I know that that is going to be 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. And that's what you would type into Schoology. 4 to the 5th power is going to be 4 times 4 times 4 times 4 times 4. 5.3 to the 2nd power would just be 5.3 times 5.3. And yes, you would have to work that out. Notice right here, 8 squared, that is 8 squared. So that would be 8 times 8. And so, yeah, and you're just evaluating it. That is how that works, ladies and gentlemen. And you move on all the way until you get to 9J. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you found this video helpful. And with that in mind, I will see you next time.